The first thing I remember is the sound of my father's voice, sharp like a slap. You earn $3,000 a month, Emily. Why is your child hungry? The room froze. My husband, Mark, stood beside me with his arms crossed, pretending to be calm. I could feel my daughter, Lily, clinging to my leg, her small fingers trembling. Then he said it. I gave her salary to my mother. She needed it more than we did. My world tilted. My name is Emily Carter. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever realized too late that the person sharing your bed was never on your side? I stared at him, my mouth dry. You did what? Mark shrugged like it was nothing. Mom's rent went up. She's family. So am I whispered. And Lily's your daughter. Dad's face went red. He'd always been a quiet man, but that day he nearly shook with rage. You took your wife's paycheck? Your kid's grocery money. Mark smirked, that smug tilt he always had when he thought he was the smartest one in the room. Emily doesn't need much. She works from home. She can handle it. Handle it? I'd been skipping meals to make sure Lily ate. I'd been lying to daycare about why the payment was late. And the man I loved, the man I built my life around, had been handing my salary to the same woman who once told me I'd never be good enough for her son. Dad turned to me. You coming home with me tonight? I wanted to say yes. But Lily tugged my sleeve and whispered, Mommy, don't cry. And that's when it hit me. Leaving wasn't enough. Not for me. Not for her. Mark didn't just take my money. He took my dignity, my trust, my quiet sense of safety. And I was going to take something back. That night as he slept, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop glowing cold blue light. Every digital password. Every bank transfer. Every lie. I began digging. I found her name, Susan Miller, his mother. $1,200 wired monthly. Then another $500 gift, sent to a mysterious account. But the name on that account wasn't his mother's. It was Rachel Green, a woman I didn't know yet. And as the clock struck 2 a.m., I realized something terrible and beautiful at the same time. This wasn't just betrayal. It was war. And I just declared it. The next morning, sunlight hit the dishes I hadn't washed, the empty milk carton and the half-open laptop. Mark hummed in the shower, like a man with no secrets. I stared at the name again, Rachel Green. $500 transfers. Monthly. Hidden in plain sight. My name is Emily Carter, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because when someone steals your peace, you start stealing pieces back. I opened Mark's phone while he was still showering. His passcode, our anniversary. How romantic. The message thread with Rachel wasn't long, but it didn't need to be. Rachel, she doesn't suspect a thing? Mark, she never does. She's too busy playing mom. Rachel, you'll move in once she cracks? Mark, soon. Just need her to break first. My hand trembled so hard I nearly dropped the phone. He was planning to leave me. And he wanted me broken before he did it. I heard the shower stop. I quickly locked the phone, slid it under the couch and sat at the table pretending to scroll through emails. He came out smiling, towel around his waist. Morning, babe. You okay? I forced a smile. Just tired. He kissed the top of my head. You stressed too much. You should trust me. I almost laughed. After he left for work, I called my best friend, Nora, the only person who ever told me to stop apologizing for existing. You can't just sit there, she said. You have to document everything. Every dollar, every message, every transfer. So I did. For 3 weeks. Quietly. Methodically. Like a ghost in my own house. Mark kept sending the money. I kept watching. He kept lying. I kept smiling. Until one night I drove to the address tied to Rachel's account. A beige apartment complex. 3rd floor. Apartment 302. And there she was. Young. Beautiful. Laughing as she opened the door to my husband. I stayed in the car, my hands shaking on the steering wheel, heart pounding like thunder. He brought her a bag of groceries, bought with my salary. He touched her face the way he used to touch mine. And I realized, I wasn't just funding his affair. I was financing their life together. I could have screamed. Could have stormed up and made a scene. But I didn't. I started recording. Every kiss. Every laugh. Every betrayal framed by the dashboard light. That night I tucked Lily into bed, kissed her forehead and whispered a promise into her curls. Mommy's not weak anymore. Then I opened a new folder on my laptop. Title, For Court. Because some wars aren't fought with screaming. They're fought with proof, silence and timing. And I was just getting started. The night after I saw them together I learned something. Silence is the sharpest weapon when you wield it right. My name is Emily Carter, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because sometimes revenge doesn't look like screaming. It looks like smiling while you sharpen the knife behind your back. Mark came home late again, smelling like cheap cologne and someone else's skin. He tossed his jacket on the couch, mumbled something about working overtime. I smiled. Oh, I made dinner. He blinked, surprised. You cooked? Of course, I said sweetly. You work so hard. You deserve it. He didn't know that while he was out working, I was transferring his hidden files from our shared laptop to a private drive. He didn't know I'd already changed my direct deposit information at work. He didn't know I'd opened a new bank account under my maiden name, Emily Brooks. And he definitely didn't know that my father, a retired accountant, had started reviewing every transaction he'd ever made. Mark ate his dinner like nothing was wrong. I watched him memorizing every smug bite. He said, "You seem happier lately." "I am," I replied. "I just realized, everything works itself out eventually." He smiled, thinking he'd won. But here's the thing about men like Mark. They only see what they expect. He thought I was the fragile wife who couldn't live without him. He forgot who I was before him. A woman who built her career from scratch, who'd survived layoffs, single motherhood and his mother's constant belittling. And now I had something even stronger than pain. Purpose. The next week I met with Nora at a cafe downtown. She handed me a small USB. "This has everything from his secret account," she said. "He's been cashing checks under your name too." My chest tightened. "He's forging my signature?" "Yeah," Nora said softly. "He's not just cheating. He's setting you up." I swallowed hard. For a moment the world spun. But then I steadied myself. He wanted me to break. I'd give him the opposite. That night I told Mark I got a bonus at work. $3,000, I said, pretending to sound excited. He grinned like a fox. "Oh, maybe we can help Mom again this month." I laughed. "Of course, baby. I'll send it tomorrow." He kissed me on the forehead, told me I was such a good wife, and went to bed. And as soon as his snores filled the room, I wired every cent, not to his mother, not to Rachel, but to a legal trust under Lily's name. By morning my account showed zero. And I smiled wider than I had in years. Because now, everything he took from me was building something he couldn't touch. The next morning I kissed him goodbye like nothing had changed. And as he drove away, I whispered to my reflection in the window, "You're almost free." Almost. Because before I walked out of this marriage I wanted him to feel what it's like to lose everything he took for granted. And that feeling was coming soon, faster than he could ever imagine. Mark always said, "You're too emotional, Emily. You overthink everything." He was right about one thing, I think. But now I think like a storm he'll never see coming. My name is Emily Carter, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because when you stop begging to be understood, you start preparing to be remembered. A week passed. Mark strutted around the house like a man who believed he'd already won the war. He still sent money to Rachel. Still lied about working late. Still smiled that lazy smile that once made me weak. But behind that smile his empire was cracking. Dad had found 3 forged tax filings under my name. Each one showed my salary deposited into his side business, Miller Property Solutions. A fake LLC that didn't exist 3 years ago. Dad said, frowning as we sat at his kitchen table. "He's using your name to hide taxable income. That's fraud. You could go down for this if you don't act fast." I took a deep breath. My hands stopped shaking. "Then we make sure he goes down first." That night I asked Mark if he'd like to go out, our first date night in months. He looked suspicious, then thrilled. "Sure. What's the occasion? You'll see. We went to a quiet Italian place. I wore red, the same color Rachel wore in the photo I'd seen of her. He noticed. You look amazing, he said, his voice low. I smiled. I just wanted to remind you who you married. He reached for my hand. I never forgot. If only he knew my phone was recording under the candlelight between us. His words, his promises, every lie captured clean and clear. After dinner, as he drove, I said softly, Mark, do you ever feel guilty about anything? He laughed. About what? Taking from people. Using them. He grinned, eyes on the road. People use each other all the time, It's just about who's smarter. That was the line. The one I needed. The next day I went to a lawyer. A woman named Janet Pierce. Tough, sharp, and the kind of quiet that meant danger. She looked through my folder. Bank records, screenshots, photos, video, audio. When she finished, she leaned back and said, You don't need a divorce, Emily. You need a takedown. And trust me, this is gold. For the first time in months, I smiled without faking it. The unraveling began small. His LLC received a surprise audit notice. His secret account froze. His mother's rent check bounced. Rachel's text started panicking. Mark, what's happening? They're freezing everything. Did you tell someone? Me. I was home making pancakes with Lily, humming softly while his world collapsed. When he stormed in that night, eyes wild, he shouted, What did you do? I looked at him, calm as glass. I made breakfast for dinner. He slammed his fist against the counter. You're lying. I met his rage with silence. The kind that eats through a man's confidence. Because I knew tomorrow morning he'd wake up to an eviction notice for Rachel, a subpoena for his accounts, and a frozen credit line he couldn't fix. And then he'd finally understand. You don't take from a woman who has nothing left to lose. You just build the fire she'll burn you with. By the time the sun rose, the empire of lies Mark built on my back had started to crumble. And I didn't have to lift a single finger, because gravity handles the rest. My name is Emily Carter, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because when the universe finally sides with the truth, it doesn't whisper. It roars. I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. Missed calls. Texts. Emails. Mark, did you do something to my account? Rachel, they froze my rent payment. What's going on? His mother. Mark, they're saying I owe back taxes. Fix this. I sipped my coffee, calm as a lake, and replied to no one. By noon he was pacing in our living room, sweating through his shirt. This is bad. The bank says someone reported fraudulent transfers. Oh. I said innocently. Who would do that? He glared. Don't play dumb. You've been acting different lately. I tilted my head. Maybe I just stopped pretending you were worth my loyalty. His face went pale. He lunged toward my laptop, but I slid it shut. Don't, I said softly. Every file you're looking for is already in the hands of my attorney. You want to fight? Let's make it official. He froze. You wouldn't. I already did. 2 days later I got an email from Janet, the lawyer. She said, he's lawyering up. He's scared. And Rachel just filed a harassment complaint against him. I think she's realized he's toxic. Good. Let them eat each other alive. But that wasn't the victory. Not yet. The victory came the next morning when Mark's boss, the man who once toasted him as a future partner, called me. Mrs. Carter, he said cautiously, we've received an anonymous tip about Mark's unauthorized financial activity. We're placing him on suspension pending investigation. I thanked him politely, hung up, and exhaled slowly. The dominoes were falling exactly as planned. That night he came home drunk. The confident mask was gone, just a tired, furious man clutching a bottle and muttering about how everyone turned against him. He staggered toward me. You ruined me. I met his eyes. No, Mark. You did that yourself. I just hit send. He looked around the house, the home I'd built, the photos of Lily, the life he'd treated like a stage prop, and his eyes filled with something I'd never seen before. Not guilt. Not shame. Fear. Because he realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about accountability. He tried one last desperate move. He called my dad. Begged him to talk me down. Dad listened quietly, then said, "Son, you should have thought about that before you made my daughter your accountant, maid, and target." Then he hung up. The next morning I filed for divorce. Told people. But I didn't just ask for custody or alimony. I asked for every cent he'd laundered through my name. And since my lawyer had every transaction, every recording, every text, he couldn't deny a thing. When the papers hit his desk, I knew he'd feel the weight of every dollar he stole. Because that money was now labeled under one name, Lily Carter's Educational Trust. And for the first time since this started, I finally exhaled. But the storm wasn't over yet. Because Rachel wasn't done with him either. And her revenge was about to make mine look merciful. That there's a strange kind of silence that comes after chaos. Like the world holds its breath to see what you'll do next. And in that quiet, my phone buzzed with a name I never thought I'd see. Rachel Green. My name is Emily Carter, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because sometimes, the person who helped destroy you becomes the one who helps you finish the job. Her voice shook when I answered. "Emily, please don't hang up." I didn't say a word. "I didn't know," she said quickly. "I swear I didn't know he was married. He told me you'd left him years ago. That he was raising Lily alone." My stomach twisted. "He said what?" She took a deep breath. "He told me you were unstable. That you drained his accounts, that you were obsessed with him. He said he couldn't divorce you until his mother's house was paid off." I didn't speak for a long moment. The wind outside whistled through the phone line like a ghost. Then I said softly, "You believed him." "I did," she whispered. "Until I saw your daughter's photo on his Facebook page. The one he forgot to delete." Her voice cracked. "She looks just like him." That silence between us turned heavy. Two women connected by the same lie. Then she said something that made my pulse jump. "He's got another account. Offshore. Under a fake name, Robert Hines. He's been moving money there for months." That night Rachel sent me screenshots. Bank statements. Account numbers. A photo of Mark's notebook where he'd scribbled his fake alias and passwords. He was hiding more than infidelity. He was committing federal-level fraud. And suddenly my revenge grew teeth. The next morning I sat with my lawyer, Janet. I slid the phone across the table. "This is from Rachel Green. She's ready to testify." Janet's eyes gleamed. "You realize what this means, right? We're not talking about divorce anymore. We're talking about criminal charges." I nodded slowly. "Good." For months I had cried, begged, prayed for him to change. Now I just wanted justice. Clean, legal, and devastating. Meanwhile, Rachel kept feeding me details. Where he met her, how he lied, how he used my money to take her on trips, buy her gifts, and even pay for a down payment on an apartment in her name. "He told me he'd left everything to me in his will," she said bitterly. "Turns out I was just the next wallet." I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then she said, "Emily, I want to help you. Whatever it takes." 3 weeks later, Mark was served again, this time by federal investigators. Fraud. Forgery. Identity theft. He came storming into my driveway that night, eyes wild, shouting my name. "You think you can ruin me?" he screamed. I stood at the doorway, arms crossed. "I didn't ruin you, Mark. You built your own trap." Rachel's car pulled up behind him. She stepped out, calm, composed, a quiet fury in her eyes. For a moment he looked between us, his past and his present standing side by side. Two women who'd both believed his lies. Two women who weren't afraid anymore. Rachel said quietly, "You used me. You used her. Now we're done being used." Mark laughed, an empty, broken sound. "You think you can take me down?" I looked him dead in the eyes. "We already did." As he drove off into the night, red lights flashing in the distance where unmarked cars waited for him, I turned to Rachel. "Do you think he'll ever understand what he did?" I asked. She exhaled. "Men like that don't learn, Emily. They just lose." And when I walked back inside, closing the door softly behind me, I realized he didn't just lose his marriage. He'd lost the privilege of ever calling himself a good man again. The morning they took Mark away, the world looked exactly the same. The sky didn't darken. The wind didn't howl. But inside me, something finally went quiet. My name is Emily Carter, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because sometimes justice doesn't scream. Just exhales. They came for him at 6:45 a.m. 2 black SUVs, quiet but deliberate. Lily was still asleep upstairs. I watched from the window as they cuffed him, barefoot in his t-shirt, shouting my name. Emily. This isn't over. But it was. Every lie. Every dollar. Every insult wrapped in charm. All of it ended with a single click of those metal cuffs. I didn't smile. Not yet. Because victory, when you've bled for it, doesn't feel sweet. It feels sacred. By noon, the story had spread like wildfire. Local businessman arrested for fraud and identity theft. His name was everywhere. LinkedIn, news blogs, even Facebook. People whispered. His coworkers deleted their photos with him. His mother tried to spin it as a misunderstanding. And Rachel? She posted one sentence that broke the internet. Turns out, karma keeps receipts. That evening, I picked Lily up from school. She ran into my arms, laughing, her backpack bouncing. He didn't know. Not yet. And I wanted to keep it that way. We stopped for ice cream and she said, "Mommy, are we happy now?" I hesitated, then smiled softly. "We're getting there, baby." But inside something twisted. Because even though Mark was gone, his shadow still lingered in the corners of my mind. The years I lost. The self-worth he drained. The pieces of myself I had to rebuild just to breathe again. That night, I sat alone on the porch, the air heavy with November chill. My father joined me quietly, handing me a cup of tea. "You did good," he said. I stared at the stars. "Then why does it still hurt?" "Because you're human," he said simply. "And because you loved someone who didn't deserve it." We sat in silence. The kind of silence that heals instead of haunts. 2 days later, Janet called. "He's trying to plead out. Wants to avoid trial." "Let him," I said. "As long as the money goes to Lily. He will. You'll get full custody too. The court's leaning heavily in your favor." For the first time, my shoulders dropped. The weight lifted, slowly but undeniably. Later that night, Rachel texted me a photo. Mark in orange, head down, eyes hollow. Then she added, "We did it." I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "No. We survived it." Before bed, I tucked Lily in and looked around our small, quiet house. No shouting. No slammed doors. No lies hiding in the walls. Just peace. But even peace has a price. And before I could truly move on, there was one last thing I needed to do. The courtroom was waiting. And I wasn't going there to destroy him anymore. I was going to reclaim me. The courtroom was colder than I imagined. Sterile air, polished floors, and faces pretending not to look at me. But I could feel them. The whispers. The pity. The quiet awe. My name is Emily Carter, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because this is where it ends. Not with anger, but with peace sharp enough to cut. Mark sat at the defendant's table, pale, smaller somehow. His lawyer whispered to him, but he didn't listen. He just stared at me like he was seeing a ghost. In a way, he was. The woman he once controlled no longer existed. When the judge called my name, I stood. Janet handed me the paper, the victim's statement. But I didn't need to read it. I'd memorized every word in the quiet hours when grief became clarity. I looked at the judge, then at Mark. "Your Honor," I began, my voice steady. "For years I believed I was loved. I thought sacrifice made me worthy. I thought patience could fix cruelty. I was wrong. A few people shifted in their seats. I wasn't a wife to him. I was an account number. A convenience. A story he told to make himself look noble. But I'm done living in that version of myself." I turned my gaze to Mark. "You once said people use each other. It's just about who's smarter. Maybe you were right. But you forgot one thing. Even pawns can choose to stop playing." His eyes dropped. "I'm not asking for revenge," I continued softly. "I already got it the moment I stopped needing his apology." The courtroom stayed silent. Even the judge seemed to hesitate before speaking. When it was over, the sentence came quickly. 5 years for fraud. 2 for identity theft. Restitution in full to the trust under our daughter's name. Outside the courthouse, the world felt different. Lighter. Brighter. Like I could finally breathe air that was mine. Rachel met me on the steps. She handed me a folded piece of paper. A check for $3,000. "What's this?" I asked. She smiled sadly. "The money he gave me. Every cent. I don't want it. I figured it should go to Lily." I stared at it for a long moment before saying, "Thank you." Then I hugged her, not because I forgave everything but because we both survived the same man. That evening I came home to Lily drawing at the kitchen table. She looked up, her big brown eyes glowing. "Mommy, are we happy now?" she asked. I smiled, the kind that comes from deep inside. "Yes, baby. We really are." We made dinner together. Just us. No tension, no secrets. The smell of garlic and laughter filled the air, simple and honest. I watched her dance around the kitchen barefoot, free, and thought, this is what justice feels like. Not a gavel. Not headlines. Just peace. Before bed, I stood by the window, the night humming softly outside. "I forgive you," I whispered, not to him but to the version of me who stayed too long. Because she didn't know better. But I do now. And as the stars blinked quietly above our little house, I finally said the words that closed the story completely.